Alright guys, TouchCrone back again today, hopefully enjoying your Saturday so far, and as I'm sure you'll be aware, over the last several days a lot has been happening in the Call of Duty community, but today we're going to bring you back to normality and discuss the meta and some roster changes that are potentially going down over the coming days. The roster lock looks like it's either tomorrow or Monday, so OGLA have got to get their skates on to get everything locked up, but we also have some potential substitute changes that we will look at in a second, in addition to the amateur scene. Also, let's talk about the meta, because over the last few days we've had this patch that came in, the MP5 got nerfed, then there was a whole discussion around what should be G8, is the Uzi too strong, are we going to get rid of these like ammo conversions on the weapons, and now people are figuring out that actually the AUG, the AUG, which in previous games has been an assault rifle back in the the Black Ops 1 days, for example, I think Modern Warfare 2 as well, but in this game it's an SMG and it's pretty nasty, as we'll look at in the coming minutes here. Maybe that's going to be the new meta going forwards, or are the pros going to decide like that's too strong, let's GA it back to the MP5 and the M4, but that meta may have had some significant shifts, as we will discuss in the coming minutes. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it, and make sure you don't miss any of the latest competitive Call of Duty update. Let's talk about first of all Metals and the Toronto Ultra. So Classic of course going out of this team in kind of controversial fashion for Kleenex. Looks like most recently Metals has actually been scrimming with, I suppose, the B team with Looney, Lucky, Brack and Mayhem, so maybe it's very possible that Classic is now back in the starting lineup, as Dilo pointed out right here. So pretty interesting potential, have to see how that develops over the coming days, but also of course we need to talk about OpTic Gaming and what is going on here. The other day we talked about Drazza potentially in the starting lineup instead of Dashy. What's going on there? Trying out all these UYU guys, and there was some discussion that there's some other players behind the scenes as well that are being discussed. So this comes out from Crone CDL Intel. OpTic Gaming are now trialing Hollow 412. So I think Haggie's team was scrimming them, and as you can see, Hollow right here alongside OGLA trial, and well, Slash you can see in the bottom left here. So yeah, really interesting. They're trying Hollow from the UYU team, but then in addition to that, as Lando pointed out yesterday, it looks like Rex, so Dylan Rex on that UYU squad, also getting a trial. And as Lando points out in this video, which is quite interesting, he says that it could be a potential two-person change. So OGLA obviously trialing out all these like young, cracked out young guys, but you know, it couldn't necessarily just be Drazza for Dashy, and we talked about the merits of that change. Is it going to work? Like maybe with him the chemistry in the team isn't so good, but it's also potential they might make a two-person change with Chino stepping out as well. As Crone says here, like roster lock is July 5th, so coming up very, very soon indeed. Screenshot of Dan Drazza in the lobby with Kenny, Slasher, TJ and Dashy from yesterday. So it looks like, well, Dylan, Rex, Drazza, I think that's how you meant to pronounce it, maybe I'm getting it wrong, and also Hollow all being tried out. I think Hollow used to be known as Norks, if you guys remember that back in the day. But yeah, interesting. Have to see what OGLA settle on in the coming days, but it seems highly unlikely that they will just stick to their initial starting lineup after making all these trial runs, but they don't have too long to solidify things. Then we have this in the European amateur scene. So this screenshot came out from Linny. Dave says, where is Chain? Question mark. Looks like Chain has joined back to the Singularity squad. We've got Bids, Chain, Gizmo, Detain and Insight here. So that means that Maple are no longer on the starting lineup, as Zoom Viper says. Not exactly sure what's going on here, but it looks like Chain's back in the starting lineup for now in the Singularity squad, looking to build a team that can actually take down Dave and the boys on Team War that have been dominating the scene very recently indeed. So let's talk about the meta then. Zoomer a couple of days ago said round 4 different SMGs today with 2 months left in the game. Thumbs up, Classic Joe Seacott, Slasher, thumbs up. MP7 Wave Brother, it's a blast. So a couple of days ago we said, look, is the MP7 going to be the gun now? Yes, it has low damage but high rate of fire, no recoil. Is that the one to step in? Because people realized very quickly that the Uzi is very strong indeed with those 41 AE, ammo conversion rounds. Extends the 3-shot range very, very far indeed, especially if you're hitting the upper torso. Basically made it better than the MP5 given the recent nerf. The MP5 hasn't got drastically worse, as we'll look at in a second, but because it was nerfed to some degree, pros are now trying out different weapons and realizing that other things are actually very, very strong indeed, and may have been stronger the entire year than the MP5 ever was, even though I'm sure some would, would conflict that opinion. But look, Azuma says here, yep, think it may be the one. Honestly, still undecided, but things have changed very much over the last couple of days. Illy tweets this out yesterday, a picture of the org, and it looks like that once again, the Dallas Empire are the team that's really taking this to the next level and looking into the details and trying to find guns which are very valid and viable in competitive play right now. Abizi then tweets this out. Excuse me, this is from the Atlanta FaZe squad scrimming the Dallas Empire last night. I'll just put this on the big screen for you guys, as you can see right here. Abizi's holding this angle with the MP5. Hoot comes around the corner and absolutely fries him with the org, like the hip fire into ADS. This is something that, okay, you see maybe from time to time when you have the, MP5 versus MP5, like latency and that kind of thing, but this is kind of ridiculous, and we're looking in a second exactly what the ranges look like on the AUG when we compare it to something like the MP5, especially in the current state. Yes, the iron sights are kind of ugly, but it's an SMG and it's clearly a very, very powerful one indeed, without any ammo conversions, which is the interesting thing. The Uzi only gets very, very strong when you put the 41 AE rounds on this. You can have the 9mm Parabellum rounds on the AUG, but it still is a very strong weapon because of some of the range extenders you can put on it in terms of the barrels. So this is Exclusive Ace's range chart from way back in the day. I think maybe there was some sort of stealth nerf to the AUG earlier this season, but I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference to what we're seeing on screen. So let's look at this. 3-shot kill range out to, well, a pretty significant distance of 12.5 meters here. This, of course, is, what's it called? Grasna Raid, I think this map he does these on. But look, this is without any ammo conversions at all. You can put the range extenders on, the barrel extensions, and this really extends the 3-shot range to a very significant amount. The 4-shot range as well out to well beyond the 25 meter range if you put the 622mm, I think it's a barrel, on this weapon. So you can see that the ranges on the AUG are very impressive indeed, especially when you consider the fire rate, right? It fires at 759 or something around that RPM, so a very like standard SMG rate of fire, very similar to what the MP5 delivers, and the recoil isn't exactly like huge, and the items are kind of ugly, but at the same time when you look at the range, like it has a significant advantage, right? Like we look at the MP5 right here, we can see that if we look post-patch most recently, the 3-shot range is only down to here with 9mm. It goes out a bit further with the 4-shot range, but this compared to the AUG, as we can see a second ago, is just no comparison in terms of the ranges, and the rate of fires are relatively similar indeed. So that really does beg the question, is the AUG just the gun to be using right now? Is the AUG just the gun to be using? A lot of people have, come up with this opinion that this may be the weapon to be introduced into competitive play right now. We only have a week or so. Of course, the New York event starts next Friday, 10th of July. So will the AUG be in the meta? Will the Uzi somehow still manage to find use? Will the MP5 still be there? Or is it going to be the M4 that's going to be dominating competitive play? Because as, Accuracy and some others have a conversation with last night, as Frosty says, in the pre-patch situation when the 10mm was still allowed in the GA, the M4 at least stood a chance versus the MP5, saying that yes, the MP5 was the better gun in the game, but the M4 stood a chance at a lot of ranges. In this meta, the MP5 now stands 0 chance against the M4 with the nerf and everything else. We've seen some nice clips from the M4 come out, and it looks like that the M4 is now the dominant force weapon in the game, and maybe SMGs aren't even particularly viable if you're using the MP5. McMelt's, of course, an SMG player, is like, yeah, I'm not particularly happy about this one. Simps did a similar thing, like, us SMG players are struggling at the current time. We got to do something about this, of course, bringing in Lamar Accuracy because he's kind of the GA king. Lamar, come through, brother. I've been battling for you sub players. No one wants to listen to me though. So it looks like effectively what he's saying is maybe we should bring back the 10mm ammunition. So kind of funny how they GA it, and now they're thinking, damn, the AUG and the M4 are now so good given the MP5 nerf. Maybe we have to roll back the 10mm GA to make the MP5 even competitive. So it's all a bit of chaos right now, to be honest. And this is what Accuracy is talking about. Then you've got this clip I'll share with you guys from Fire. So he's on Parasite's team. I think Goonjar, Exotic, and Paul X. Or this, the clip is from Fire, but you can hear Paul in the video talking about how he had a pretty rough game with the MP5 in hand, saying that like he just can't do anything against in the current meta right now, and Parasite's just chilling there with the main assault rifle. So kind of funny clip, and as he says right here, you can hear the pain in Paul's voice. They want the 10mm bullets back in the game.
Bro, Paul.
What do you want me to do, man? What do you want me to do? You're running around with anything you fucking want to. You make me use a sub. You don't let me use anything I fucking want, but you can use anything.
Wait, you can use whatever you want.
And AUG and AR, you can use anything you fucking want.
Wait, yeah, you can do the same thing.
I could use any sub I want. Okay, thank you, Haggy. Using an AR that could kill in 2 bullets. I've seen you get the kill cam. I have to use a fucking...
Bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you good? Yeah, cause I can shoot straight right now. Hello?
Cause you're using a fucking AR, Haggy! You're using an AR! You're not using a fucking sub! You're moving around like a fucking slug.
I've used an AR. I've used a sub every hard point.
Use an MP5 next map. Use an MP5 next map.
Wait,
please,
I will.
Okay, don't switch your men either. Do not switch your men. You sit there and get shit on with it.
However, even if they did bring the 10mm bullets back, does that mean that it now competes with the AUG again? Because as we've looked right now, maybe the AUG has been like a secret gem of a weapon, which no one has really discovered the entire year. Everyone kind of gets set in their ways that the MP5 is the gun to be using, yeah, myself included. And then you get to a point where the AUG is actually a really, really good secret gun gun, and the MP5, even with 10mm, isn't going to be able to compete with it once people have discovered this weapon. Maybe it will turn out that it's not actually as good as it seems. Dallas were just trying it, but from that clip we saw earlier with the BZ versus Hook, maybe it does have some merits to it. But then to finish off the video, wanted to discuss this. So Simp then says on July the 3rd, never mind, didn't call the meta because he was calling the meta about the MP7 being the gun. The MP5 is still nutty, but then he replies later on, did I say MP5? Dallas is convincing me the AUG is the meta right now. Every day I'm using a new gun, so much fun. And then Jay Ferro then replies, after our scrim versus you guys, we just started using 4 to 5 ARs, so the M4, and it was working. I don't know what is going on anymore. So saying, like, it's so strange, right? The no stock has been nerfed. I think some of the M4 players are now using a different stock, I imagine, on it, but it seems like that this is the way to go. ARs are incredibly strong, and what can even compete with them right now, as Ferro says, like, you know, maybe we don't even need AUGs, let's just use the ARs at like all ranges. The M4 is the god gun, and it's just crazy how like one small change to the game and to the meta in terms of like a small nerf and then some GAs come in, completely flips the meta on its head, and people are trying all sorts of new stuff and finding things that may or may not work. So we have approximately a week until the next event. Honestly, I have no idea how this is going to go. I don't know what guns are going to be used at the current time. I would hedge to guess that the AUG is actually very viable, but I do wonder whether discussions are going on behind the scenes that say, well, look, you know, us as a pro community, we've used the MP5 and M4 all season. We would like it to stay as the MP5 M4 meta because this new meta is so much chaos. Maybe we should just bring back the 10mm ammunition, GA the AUG, GA the Uzi, and do something with the M4 to make it so that the meta is kind of similar to what it was. But it definitely does look like at the very least we're going to be seeing a lot of maps with 2 ARs on them. You know, assuming the AUG doesn't completely take over the meta, but as Ferro says, that's unlikely to happen, which probably will affect some teams, right? I'm sure we can have this discussion in coming days, talking about which teams benefit from a 2, maybe even 3 on some maps that used to be only 1 AR, you know, 2 AR meta plus. Which teams benefit from that, right? Because there's talk about London, of course, having a lot of ARs on that team. Maybe Shawnee, maybe Zero could pull out the AR in addition to Waskin. And then you look at, you know, Chicago, of course, right? With we talked about Arcites, and Formal have had a difficult time. Formal, you know, using the MP5 at times. Arcites using it as well. Not ideal for him either. The fact that both of those could go back to the main AR definitely, well, spells a good thing for that team. And you can also talk about Dallas, right? A lot of the teams this season have been built around a couple of players that traditionally have been using main assault rifles throughout their career, or at least assault rifles at the very minimum. And you can look at, you know, the Florida team as well, right? Morgs is on the bench now, but he's a player who's typically been a main AR, right? Do they even consider bringing him back? Probably not, but who knows? Maybe that's an option. So we'll have to see how things develop in coming days, but I definitely think some teams will probably benefit from this meta change. And will the AUG become the new god gun in the game, or will the MP5 even see any usage? But it seems like that's a more viable alternative than the Uzi or the MP7 right now. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Look, if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.